Welcome to Municipal Affairs. Today, we are reflecting once again on the year that has been as challenging as transformative for municipalities. This past year, our cities, our towns, our villages, and even our rural communities have been at the forefront of some of the most pressing issues of our time. From navigating the financial ripple effects of economic uncertainty to embracing innovation in infrastructure, housing, and ongoing local governments have proven that they are more than just the closest to the people. They are the problem solvers, the innovators, and often the ones who make things happen when higher levels of government fall short. We've seen mayors and councils wrestle with complex issues like affordable housing shortages, aging infrastructure, and how to tackle the growing impacts of social challenges, all while managing day-to-day services that keep our communities running smoothly. Joining me today to look back on 2024 in rural Saskatchewan is the president of the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities, President Bill Huber. Are you passionate about local governance and municipal issues? Do you believe in the power of community-driven conversations? Then join us at the Cross Border Network, where we bring together voices from across Canada to shine a spotlight on the challenges and the triumphs of our municipalities. But we need your support to keep the conversation going. Visit crossborderinterviews.ca today to show your support by backing the show monthly or making a one-time annual donation. Your contribution will help us grow and expand our reach, bringing important stories to even more listeners across the nation. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can amplify the voices of local communities. Together, we can shape a brighter future for all. Cross Border Network, where local matters and your support counts. Visit us today at crossborderinterviews.ca. President Huber, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and talking about the last 12 months in the SARM world, the rural municipalities of Saskatchewan world, and just municipalities in general. I want to start, if you don't mind, by asking a simple question. In 2024, how do you see the state of municipalities ending?
I see them ending in really good shape. I think we've got a great organization here at SARM, and I think our members are for the most part satisfied with how we represent them. And there's always room for improvement. And we're in a board meetings today, and we've gone through a lot of things, some changes that are going to be coming up that our members are going to be seeing, and most importantly, some of that will be to how do we get new elected officials somewhat educated to their roles and responsibilities as municipal leaders. So that's something that's going to be coming out. That will be shared with our members so that we can help each council, with their new council members and reeves to be somewhat more acquainted with their roles and responsibilities, because they do play a huge role in municipal government, which represents, we visit with the provincial leaders and federal leaders too. So it's all a big part of it. It's a team effort, just like it is here at SARM in our office.
So before we talk about the rural municipalities, I want to just talk about SARM for a few seconds, because this has been a transformative year for your organization. First with former President Ray Orb stepping down, and just recently with your Executive Director Jay Meyer stepping down, and now yourself as acting president and your new Executive Director are coming in at the end of 2024. How do you see 2025 playing out from an organizational structure standpoint?
I see it playing out very well. Jay Meyer was here for 10 years and led this organization. Laurel Felton, our director of our executive director now, that just stepped into that role yesterday, and she's certainly no stranger to municipal politics, to SARM, to the staff, to the board. Very well acquainted with everyone here, and very well versed, very capable individual. And we've got relatively a new board. I'm acting president, and I will remain in that role till March, at which time I feel I'm going to be running for a 3-year term. for president. And I think we're in good shape. We've got an excellent board, and we've got a lot of topics on our agenda, and some of them are, retroactive to last year. Some of the same issues are before us. Some things never go away. We can't fix them 100%, so we keep working on them. But I think we're in a really good place. We've got a great staff and great leadership, and I feel very confident going forward. So I'm very optimistic about it.
Just about your transition into the acting president's position, how has that transition shaped the direction and the priorities of SARM, do you believe, looking at the organization as a whole? Because you're stepping into big shoes, Ray Orb's old shoes. How do you see yourself being able to pick up where Ray left off and advocate for your members?
Well, like you said, Ray was an excellent leader along with Jay and the entire team here. And it is big shoes, to fill. And I hope I can do that and represent our members good. Some of the things that we're going to work for is, I have a little bit of a vision statement and a mission, and I want to be on. And I guess I've been born and raised on a farming operation and continued that career all my life, and been in the ag industry for my entire career. Run a couple other small businesses, but that were related to agriculture. But I want to be more focused on our rural members and their needs, not only in infrastructure, but some ways that we can help them with lobby efforts to keep agriculture forefront. It's one of the largest industries in this province. Our exports are in the billions of dollars. We've been increasing them with the support of the provincial government, and that'll be one of our main initiatives. But healthcare is another one. The challenges will never go away. There's always, it's all about money sometimes. And we're going to work very closely again with the ministries of health, both the health minister and rural and remote health. We know both of those ministers very well. We've met with them in past, meetings over the past portfolios. So those relationships will continue. We're going to keep pushing hard. We've made a lot of improvements in 24. With the farmer care thing with pharmacists and that, and we want to expand that with the help of Michael Fougere and his team over there. So those things will improve, but there's still that, rural disconnect for some of our rural members. Towns and villages are becoming, less populated, but we still have, a lot of people that require, immediate attention. And we want to work with municipalities as far as housing goes for doctors, for nurses, for nurse practitioners, and try and keep them local health centers open and staffed so that there's a 24-hour emergency service in at least some of the bigger centers. So that's always a challenge. Of course, infrastructure and money for highways, roads, and bridges, another big challenge we always have. But we're optimistic and moving forward. And of course, rural crime. It never goes away. I think it's getting worse. And we're going to be having meetings with Rhonda Blackmore here in the next week and working towards some of them things. And you know what? Every day there's another email comes in from somebody else with an invitation to something that brings up some new challenges and some extra workload for us. But we're ready for that. We got the team here that can help the board and myself as president and move forward.
So you just mentioned a lot of issues that you're going to be working on in 2025 and you've been working on in 2024. Looking back on the last 12 months, what's been the biggest accomplishment from SARM's perspective on the advocacy front? Because municipalities always put metrics into place to ensure that they're doing what they need to do to move the organization, move their issues forward. Is there a win that you can point to and say, you know what? We didn't get all what we wanted, but we got this done?
Well, I'll go to the RIRG program. I'll start there. We got a little more funding, a little bit of commitment there. And it's not enough in a lot of cases, but, it's a start. And if we're open and transparent with the ministers, that we deal with, and Minister Merritt is no stranger to the program. And he's no stranger to highways. He was in that portfolio before. And we're going to set up a meeting with him in the future. And we're going to try and improve that program and work more closely with them and to benefit our members. But some of the other wins, of course, the pharmacare thing that I mentioned, and some of the agriculture initiatives that we've worked on with the crop insurance representatives, and we just had them in the office yesterday for a meeting, and we're concerned about some of the premiums, and they're they're higher than they've been in the past. But we've suffered 4 to 5 years of severe drought in parts of the province, and this past year, even with the the more rainfall in the west, we still had an extremely hot and dry July, which affected yields. So we moved forward on the policing thing, I think, quite a bit with the introduction of the Marshal Service, and it was really refreshing to have that resolution a while ago passed that we don't oppose the marshals. So that gave us the mandate to go ahead and work with the marshals and also the RCMP, that we can get them working together. And we've met several times with Rob Cameron, and we're meeting again with Rhonda Blackmore here in the next few days. So I think there's been some progress made there. But one thing we stress, and we have accomplished a little bit, is more RCMP officers, and they've worked very closely, to support not only the needs in rural Saskatchewan, but towns and cities and villages, to have more officers. And the training thing has opened up a little bit, that is more acceptable to to get people to enter the RCMP. And another thing is that any new members are joining, they can also remain in this province if that's where they want to stay. That they're not going to be transferred to New Brunswick or Newfoundland or somewhere that maybe they don't want to go. So I think those are some of the things we've accomplished.
So I want to touch on rural crime because you mentioned it and my eyes perked up because I thought you must have looked at my questions prior to talking about this, because rural crime is an issue. I've spoken to many municipalities, not just in Saskatchewan, but across Canada, where crime and rural crime is a hot topic for rural municipal leaders. But rural crime is not a provincial, not a municipal, it's a federal issue as well. Do you think you've done a good enough job advocating to the federal government in 2024 to change some of the rules around bail reform, around the RCMP allotment? Because I can imagine that is going to be a hot topic in 2025 as we head into a federal election as well.
Well, I think as far as SARM goes, we've done our work. We really have. We've pushed that issue. I've mentioned it several times that we have to have bail reform. But our response from the federal government and their initiative and their desire to move forward on some of these and legislative changes to not have it a catch and release system where we catch and keep them. And that's been disappointing. We meet with officials in Ottawa. We go there on a lobby trip once a year, late October. And, sometimes they listen to us, but they don't hear us. And that is concerning. But we're not going to give up that battle. And we're optimistic that someday we will have a change in Ottawa. And we've got a wish list with the Saskatchewan Conservative Caucus on 7 different things that we're going to move forward on. And we're going to hold them to their feet to the fire on a lot of things that need to be changed to support not only Saskatchewan, but Western Canada as a whole. And most importantly, those Saskatchewan and our members in rural communities.
So outside the catch and release that this current government is currently operating under, and I say that respectfully because that's the policy that they've set out, and that's the way that we deal with it. What's the magic wand? What's the one thing that SARM would say if the next government or if Trudeau wakes up tomorrow and says, we're going to listen to SARM? What is the magic wand that you can say, if you want to take this seriously, this is the issue you have to address today?
Well, if we do get a change in government, I know we've got a new president going to be inaugurated in the United States on the 20th of January. And, President-elect Trump is I don't want to use the word bully, but he's an American patriot. He's a businessman, and he's doing what he wants to do right for the U.S. And we have to have a relationship with him. We have to have a prime minister, a minister of trade in Ottawa. And I know our prime minister did go to Ottawa last Friday, and they met with President-elect Trump. And I think it was a fairly good meeting. But we need to be a little more firm. And, if there is a 25% tariff initiated on all products exported to the US, that's going to cost Canada billions of dollars, billions, not millions. And, those are things that I think we need to be there. I would encourage, our premiers to visit with Trump, our leader of the official opposition, to be also at Mar-a-Lago or, in Washington right after he's inaugurated, because, they are a big trading partner. And, I think our provinces are doing their part on border security. That seems to be a big issue. And I think there's some progress being made there, not only by the federal government, but by the provinces too. So hopefully, those are some of the things that we can do.
So you mentioned the Trump word, so I've got to play in the sandbox for a few seconds if you don't mind,
Yeah.
because your province, your members, the rural municipality members, have very large roots in the agriculture sector, and your largest exporter is down south, is the States for a lot of your agricultural products.
Right.
How much would that decimate Saskatchewan's rural municipalities if that 25% tariff does get applied on January 20th, as the president-elect has said he will do?
Well, it would be devastating. 25% is a huge. You say it fast, it's not a huge number, but really, when you look at the reality of it, it's big. We send a lot of our feeder cattle, our cull cows go to slaughter in the U.S. I think it would be devastating for the livestock industry in this province. We've had some difficult times in the last 10 years, maybe even going back further than that, going back to 2003 when BSE hit. And now we've got some prices that are hitting record highs in the livestock industry with butcher cows and feeder calves and hanging carcasses. And that's a market that we don't want to see decrease, because there's a lot of catch up to do for our livestock producers to make them viable and want to remain in this industry. Our cow numbers have dropped, but also going to the manufacturing side and the grains and oilseed side. It's huge. We don't send a lot of canola to the U.S., but there's a lot of feed wheat and feed barley goes down there, a lot of other crops and commodities. And I think that it's something that we really have to make sure that we can avoid that tariff being put on. And I think if we have a good relationship from our federal government in Ottawa, working with the Trump administration once the president is inaugurated, I think things will go good. I just want to refer back a little bit to 2016 when President Trump was inaugurated. Then he threatened to tear up the NAFTA agreement, North American Free Trade Agreement. Well, that didn't really happen. They opened the agreement up. They came up with the new one, CUSMA. And I don't think it got any worse. It maybe even improved a little bit, but it was still there. And that trading relationship, has worked very well up until now. So we're optimistic that a new government or even the existing one can make some progress with the president of the United States and keep that relationship open and
turning to the provincial government, because the province just went through their own recent election, and you and I had a conversation the day after the election, actually, where Scott Moe and his government was reelected to a reduced majority, but still a majority government. He has named his cabinet. He has released his speech from the throne. What was your reaction to the speech from the throne heading into 2025, knowing that you have, as you've just laid out, many challenges and areas that you need to advocate to this government on?
Well, I think the message in the speech from the throne was that there's a rural urban divide, and we kind of anticipated that going into the the pre-election, prior to the election, because of the polls indicated that. But we still have a fairly strong majority, and they realize that there's some changes having to be made. But I got to commend the premier on his cabinet selection. I think he's done an excellent job there. And as far as SARM goes, we're very fortunate because I personally know, we only deal with a certain number of ministers. We don't deal with each and every one of them, but infrastructure, so Ministry of Highways, of course, Minister Merritt is no stranger to SARM. He was past president, served here for 8 years, I think, 7 or 8. And was Minister of Highways before. I think we can have an excellent working relationship with Minister Merritt. We've got a new ag minister, Daryl Harrison. He's elected the second time now. I've known Daryl for many, many years through the livestock industry. I could call him a personal friend. And we've got a meeting scheduled with him in the next week. So, and then of course, Travis Kiesig, the new Minister of Environment, he's got a huge portfolio and a lot of work to do there. But Travis is a worker. He's a workaholic. I've heard that he's one of the hardest working members in the legislature. So we're open to working with him on a lot of different things that affect our members, and even with health. We're going to continue a lot of the quarterly meetings that we've had. We've got a new minister of GR, government relations. He's a former reeve of a municipality in northern Saskatchewan, or the northern part of our area. And the premier must respect him highly because of newly elected MLA and appointed to cabinet on his first sitting. So we're really pleased there. And we've got a meeting scheduled for him with him next week. It's only a half hour, but we can run some of the things that are very concerning to us that we want to work on. And it's a big learning curve for these ministers in these positions, especially for Minister Harrison and Minister Kiesig and Minister Schmaltz. But those are some of the ministers that we work closely with in SARM. So
One of the big
optimistic about our relationship going forward.
One of the big things that you and I chatted about a few times over the last year, whether it be just in person at Alberta Municipalities or in your office at the SARM office right after the election, is funding. Funding for infrastructure projects. Do you feel like you've been heard, or do you feel like you're going to have to be a little bit louder in 2025 to get this issue addressed from the provincial government around funding infrastructure projects?
Well, we can only be so loud, and I'm somewhat optimistic. I don't see huge increases. We're going to sit down with Minister Merritt and discuss some things, and maybe we have to do some, balancing act too somewhere, to work with them. But it is huge. But it's always out about money and funding. We've got healthcare, we've got policing, we've got agriculture, and agriculture is such a driver, and oil and gas industry in this province, and they all need money. Crop insurance premiums are getting high. The contingency fund, SCIC is depleting. It's not zero yet, but it's 5 years of drought has took a toll on it, and so we got to appreciate all that. And we're going to go to government and meet with our ministers, and we're optimistic we'll get a lot of cooperation, but they do have to go to Treasury and find the money somewhere. But I got a good feeling about going forward, and I'm very optimistic, and I think we're going to be in a pretty good place.
I know municipal leaders hate being put on record when I ask this question, but I have to because we're at the end of 2024, heading into 2025. At the end of 2025, if you and I sat down at this time next year and I asked you, what's the one thing you got done that you're proud of? Would you be able to answer that by answering this question? What's the one thing you hope to get accomplished and off the books for SARM's advocacy work in 2025?
Healthcare professionals in rural Saskatchewan, so there isn't a shortage of them, so that we can serve the needs of our members in our local communities, so they don't have to drive to cities. And we're not asking for operating rooms in hospitals. We're just asking for general practitioners to help with the folks in our communities. So that's our number one initiative, and hope we can get there. That's primary for not only rural Saskatchewan but all of Saskatchewan. So we're hoping we can continue the efforts on recruitment and putting nurses and staff into some of these healthcare facilities.
So my final question, and I thank you for answering that, because in 2025, at the end of 2025, I'm going to ask you, how do you think that went? So be sure to know that answer for next year. So my final question to you, Acting President Huber, is this. Looking at 2025, looking at the future, are you optimistic about the future of rural municipalities in Saskatchewan?
Yes, I am. I'm very optimistic about the future of rural municipalities, but I am concerned about about the economy and the debt load that our federal government has incurred, and I'm a little somewhat concerned about agriculture and you know weather plays a big part. We have no control over that, and we need a healthy ag industry in this province to help with our GDP. So that's one of the main things that I'm concerned about. And if the weatherman cooperates, we can get some rainfall and some sunshine and avoid a frost. It's been 21 years without a killing frost in August. So we need all them things to help drive the economy. And, farmers and people in Saskatchewan and rural Saskatchewan they're aggressive and they're workaholics for the most part. And I'm feeling like we're in a really good place.
Okay, I know I said that was my last question, but you opened up this box, and I just have one follow-up to that. This year, the federal government announced changes to the capital gains tax and the the price that people would have to pay. Now, this says potentially impacted succession planning for the agricultural operators within Canada, particularly in Saskatchewan as well. Do you see this as a hindrance to the family farm in rural Saskatchewan? The new changes that the federal government has introduced?
Yes, it's huge. And I talked a little bit earlier about meeting with the Saskatchewan Conservative Caucus in Ottawa. And that is one of our 7 things on our list is the capital gains exemption. It's been at $1 million for the sale of farmland. And, and that deters, family transitions too on the other part of the tax bill. But, land prices have risen substantially in Saskatchewan in the last 2 or 3 years, especially. And that $1.25 million exemption on capital gains is not near high enough. But to be quite honest with you, we were scared to bring that up with the existing federal government to change that because they're not real friendly with Western Canada, and they don't realize the importance of agriculture and what Saskatchewan, farmers and agriculture producers in rural Saskatchewan contribute to the GDP. So we were scared if we mentioned that they may take it away totally of this. But I think we've got the ear of the Conservative Caucus in Saskatchewan. I feel optimistic if the government does change in Ottawa that we'll have an ag minister from Western Canada, we'll have a municipal affairs minister from Western Canada, some of those folks that actually have their boots on the ground and they know what lives and exists and breathes out here in Western Canada and how important it is to the whole economy. Not only agriculture, but oil and gas. Get gas flowing. There's no need for Eastern Canada to be importing gas and oil from Saudi Arabia when we've got millions and millions of barrels of it here produced right in Saskatchewan and Alberta. So those are some of the things that are important to us. And the capital gains thing, we have to have that changed. That legislation should have never been passed. And there's a lot of things that are concerning. There's a lot of bills that are in the Senate right now. Bill S-243, and I could go on with 4 or 5 of them. But some of those things have to be recognized as how important they are to making this a better place.
Well, I'm assuming you and I will be chatting a lot more in 2025 about some of those Senate bills and how it might impact agriculture sector, but also municipalities across Saskatchewan. I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me, Bill, because this has been an honor and pleasure, and I'm so happy to be able to chat with you and SARM about what's going on in your organization and what's going on across rural municipal Saskatchewan. So thank you so much.
Well, Chris, I got to say thank you to you too, because, it's important for us to get our message out to our members. And I appreciate you reaching out to us to do these interviews. And I look forward to them in the future. And as we go forward month by month, I hope there's great news to share with you and our members. And we'll relay that message to all of our members as the year goes on.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's episode looking back on 2024 in rural Saskatchewan. Over the next week, we're going to be bringing you 5 more amazing interviews with presidents of local municipal organizations in individual provinces and territories. So you do not want to miss that, culminating next Friday with our very last episode of 2024 of Municipal Affairs. So if you haven't already, Be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date and to go back and listen to all past episodes of the show. Until Monday, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you here on Municipal Affairs. Till then, everyone.